Good morning, it's Charlie LeDuff, newsman. It's been 2 weeks since 2 babies froze to death in the back of a van. Everybody's moved on. I can't. Because I found out back in November when the mother called the city for help and got turned away because she had too many children. Now, they trained her, the city trained her not to call. So here's the next deal. This is a shelter for women and vulnerable children. And what have I found out? That it hasn't passed its inspections. It doesn't have a certificate of occupancy. That's dangerous. That's illegal. You're not allowed to house dogs in that thing. And yet we got women and children. So this city spends $200 million a year on the homeless. Where to go? Where's the certificate of occupancy? What do the vulnerable kids get besides a van and a funeral? Let's go in and take a look. We're with the news. This place doesn't have a certificate of occupancy.
Occupancy? Give me one.
Well, it ain't displayed. Oh, look, the baby. Hey, look, in the window here. Good morning. You cold? They don't have no more blanket for you. On the floor. Well, at least it's warm. There's a baby on the floor. So we got no certificate of occupancy, a woman and her baby laying on the floor. We're sending billions overseas to murky organizations. We have no idea what they're doing with the money. Billions for illegals to stay in nice hotels and a woman and her baby on the floor. Mike Duggan, the mayor of Detroit, wants to be your governor. The guy's more equipped to cut ribbon than to solve problems. Charlie LeDuff, newsman. Oh, but there's more. That joint flunked its fire and buildings inspections. It's plagued with faulty wiring, faulty plumbing, a broken elevator, and exposed electrical outlets. There's a 50-gallon drum of hydraulic oil near the boiler downstairs. Uninspected sprinklers, faulty fire doors, and emergency lighting that doesn't work. It's never been issued a certificate of occupancy where we send vulnerable women and their children. It's illegal, like I said, to kennel dogs in such conditions. But the city's allowed it to operate in this condition for more than a year because of some great need. And there is great need. There's a great need to fix the fucking place. I saw that baby that morning having his breakfast on the vestibule floor. Like a fucking dog.
Through a window.
Where's the money gone? Not here. In its great wisdom, the city voted that day. I went there and there was just by chance, a red placard in the window that there was going to be a zoning board hearing that day at 9:30. It was about 7 in the morning. I'm like, well, I'll be goddamn, we get some action. No, there was no action. The action was the owner wanted to double the occupancy. But he doesn't have a certificate of occupancy. So I went to the board and I showed him this, that you cannot get. The city will not give you these reports. They don't want you to know this. And I told them, and one of the guys on the board said, well, if the good doctor says he passed his fire inspections, then we should take him at his word. It would be disrespectful otherwise. And I'm waving these, all of this that I'm holding in my hand are failed inspection reports. Okay, so I talked to the head of that shelter after he got his variance, and he promises fixes are on the way, and I'm going to hold him to his word. And as I said before, I'll say it again, billions overseas, billions for illegals, and for our children, gruel on a floor and a bed in the cemetery. Fucking outrageous.
Live from downtown Detroit, it's the No Bullshit News Hour with my main man, Charlie LeDuff, and Karen Dubitz.
Let's just breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
good old Drew. How's Drew doing?
He's doing good.
Yeah?
He's doing good. Yeah, he's still living in his basement with me.
I might have to move in.
You're welcome. There's plenty.
Level.
Hey, go ahead, say that. Oh, that's right, Karen. I'm sorry. The lower level.
Lower level. Yes.
Right. That's where you're at today, in the lower level.
No, I'm on the mezzanine today.
The mezzanine. That's true. All right.
Yeah, just got a call before we went on air. Kid Rock's brother Billy's like, my girlfriend's kind of having an episode. Can you do me a favor and go move in there for a couple of days? I'm like, with your girlfriend having an episode? No. Can you drop by? No.
Thanks for thinking of me.
Okay, Karen, you'll meet her after this. Karen's downstairs in the Coney. I have the flu. I'm up here. And we have Tara Brown with us. Hi, Tara.
Hi, Charlie.
Tara knew. Tara got a hold of me. I like Tara. I never met her, and we talked a shitload. Like we're besties now, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Because she is on the board of directors of this blob, this homeless blob called the Detroit Continuum of Care, and HUD requires this board. It's just a serpentine pile of shit. It's the board, which has got like the VA and it's got HUD and it's
in the middle of that circle of shit that you had posted when you and Karen were talking about it.
Like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that like, what is this? And you got to have people that used to be homeless. What's that called? People with living experience.
Yep.
And then all the service providers, and then an agency where it passes through. And so you call me, we're talking, and you got balls, man. You really got balls because you're the one saying it.
And I've been saying it. Just like this inspection. I brought that up 2 years ago on another shelter. And it's like.
So you're on the board and you know something's going on with this money. It's $200 million a year.
And I always say it. I got on the board, and I guess they didn't listen. When I gave my speech to get on the board, I said, transparency and accountability. That's what I want to see. Transparency and accountability. And when you see how much money these shelters get, there is no excuse. There's no excuse for that list, and there's no excuse for Miss Tatiana Williams' kids to have died in a van. Whether they froze or it was carbon monoxide, they should not have been living in a van with as much money comes to Detroit.
Yeah. So Karen, let me tell you the
Yes.
findings. We talked. You actually called me and said we should take a look at this system. I said, okay, so we did. Here's what I found. Hey, everybody, this is your money.
Yeah.
We spend more per capita on homeless than they do in L.A., the capital of American squalor. That should just tell you something. And kids are eating on the floors. The emergency shelter hotline does not operate after business hours, doesn't operate on weekends or federal holidays. So there must not be any homeless, in the dark. The bureaucrat who oversees the operations of that hotline is a convicted pedophile who sexually assaulted his 13-year-old stepdaughter.
12 at the time.
It's in the court documents. We'll talk a little bit more about him a little bit later in the show. Now, the administrative agency in this blob that disperses hundreds of millions of federal dollars for the city's homeless and housing program was red flagged in a recent audit for material weakness and significant deficiency. They're funneling $110 million through them, okay? Now, further down the web of agencies are executives of a nonprofit charged with running the day-to-day operations of the hotline who receive fat six-figure salaries. The bookkeeping of that nonprofit was also red flagged in a recent audit. Now, here's Mike Duggan, right? This guy wants to be governor, like just bullshit and candy canes. He says, I want a full report in 2 weeks. I will need a full report so I can just bullshit my way through this. Mike is the unseen hand behind all this, isn't he? He's the guy that makes it go.
Yeah, in my opinion, absolutely. You pipe it down through Tara Linsner, and she brings it back to the COC. And instead of us or HAND giving pushback, they just take it.
COC's this blob, Continuum of Care. HAND
Lead
is the
lead
Homeless
agency.
Action Network of Detroit, HAND, which is the lead agency. Now, a study was commissioned by the city to eradicate homelessness in Detroit within 5 years. Okay. We're not doing that. There's too much fucking money. We're not eradicating nothing, right? Gonna pretend we're doing it. That study detailed the deplorable conditions, like we just showed you, in the city's shelter network, including vermin, violence, and human beings being housed in basements. The city is now in year 2 of that plan, and we got dead kids, and that study exceeded $400,000. Karen, you worked in City Hall. Did you know about this COC, Continuum of Care?
You know, Charlie, I can't say that I did.
I don't think it was around when she was there.
Oh, it's a new thing.
Yeah,
I think it started in what,
Tara,
2016?
Go ahead, Karen.
Tara said something that when she was, giving her speech
Excuse me,
for
it's
the board,
Tara.
she asked for Tara. I apologize, Tara. We want to get it right. We're about accuracy.
Why are you crazy?
When that's another conversation about accountability and transparency. I can only assume that they thought she was buying into the narrative that everybody promises and asks for transparency and accountability. So they said, hey, she may be one of us. She's asking for stuff that we never get because that's all that everybody does. And it never happens. This is unacceptable. And I'm sorry that there's no outrage for this.
None.
There's none.
None. Absolutely. You know what? When I bring it up at the meetings, it's like everybody's in step but me. And again, like I told your daughter, I'm no math genius. I avoid it at all costs. But if I can look at this shit and say, now that doesn't look right, somebody else should be able to look at it and say, it makes no sense. And then I FOIA documents and bring them to their attention. And the first time I brought them up, instead of people actually listening to what I'm saying, how did you get that?
How did you get that?
So then the executive committee comes together and decides after the Allen incident, now anything that people don't want displayed in public, you can't do it. Well, guess what? If it's public information, I can. Instead of going into these executive committee meetings, figuring out how to end homelessness, they go in there and figure out how to shut us the fuck up, how to have meetings in public to keep people from coming, meetings in person to keep people from coming, figure out how to get Tara Brown's black ass off the board. You know, everything is chaos.
Let me, is there enough money, Tara? Is there enough money to supply a humane helping hand?
Yes. And
Then
when
where is it?
who knows?
Because
But when
I'm
you
seeing,
talk about taking
you know
it away,
what they do here when, like in the shelter, they put everybody on the bus and they come downtown here, right? And then they're walking around blubbering all afternoon because you have to be out of the shelter at 7, and they're just walking around like ghouls, doing crazy shit, no medication, and then back on the bus and house them up for the night with the rats and the birds.
And that's at some of the shelters. Some of them just open the door and you're just out the door to figure it out all day long. Like in the summertime, you'll be near a shelter. If there's a park near it, you'll see the people there playing with their kids. Some of them have blankets on the ground, sleeping on the ground. Like, you are just homeless. And the bigger problem too is there's money in homelessness. So there's no reason to try to get you out of homelessness. If I'm an executive director, yeah, it would be great if I saw you get off homelessness, but if you don't, I'm still getting paid. Who cares?
But that's how the system is set up.
And
Charlie,
here's
we
the
talked
other
about
part.
this yesterday.
When we run low on homeless people, if we're an agency that has a bus, we go find them. And maybe some of them will say, I'm an urban camper. I'm not. Well, here, let me get you in here and we'll get you a free breakfast and a hot shower and you can figure it out from then. But now I have your HMIS number, which is like the equivalent of a social security number.
Homeless social security number.
Yeah, and now, I got your number in the system, so if you go back out to your urban camping, what do I care?
You mean they're just going to charge even if he's not there?
And here's the thing.
Is that what you're saying?
I suspect that's what's happening, but every time I ask, nobody can give me a straight answer. When I ask, what is the penalty for a shelter continuing to use an HMIS number without the person being there, it always goes to a different conversation.
So that's where the money's going. What about this? I didn't know this, ladies and gentlemen. And I just hope you listen because it's your money. There's so much money just being wasted. I didn't know this. There's at the bottom, homeless, right? Homelessness at the bottom. And then up top, we've all heard of it, Section 8.
Right.
Section 8, government paying for your, apartment, whatever, and children. Difficult to get.
Yes,
Very difficult
very.
to get. But it's a lifetime. In between is the blob of when they say low income housing, it's like you're almost homeless.
Yeah.
You can't afford it.
Right.
So they got vouchers. What are those called? The PES?
HCV, Housing Choice Vouchers.
Okay. And that is sort of a get around the Section 8 stuff, right? It's another program.
Oh, you're talking about permanent supportive housing?
Yes.
Yes.
Permanent.
PSH.
So they give you like what, $1,019 a month or something?
I don't know. I think it varies based on where you are, what your income level
Okay.
is. Do you have kids?
So once you get on that, that's basically Section 8.
Right.
Except you're going to find your own place.
Well, with permanent supportive housing, sometimes, but then a lot of times your permanent supportive housing might be right through that organization if they own the property.
So the organization is giving you the money, not the government, not HUD. It's going through one of these blob
Right.
Wow. Okay. So I smell a skim going on here.
Well, I mean, some of it comes from HUD, but again, nobody's really clear. And when you ask for a straightforward explanation, you get an explanation, but it's never really detailed.
Why is the federal government sending money to the city? We got a blob, and all of a sudden it's going to some LLC to distribute the money.
A LLC who may turn it over to somebody else that doesn't have a real estate broker's license.
There we go. So it's $1,100 you get. This is a $500 apartment, and I take the whole $1,100.
I hope that's not happening.
Well, we got dead people in a van. Tell me why Tatiana Williams died. What do you know about it? What happened to her?
I know what you probably know more than I know about it.
I probably do.
My issue is, why were they living in a van? Here's the thing. Tatiana Williams, I'm sure Kim Worthy at some point will get her piece of flesh, or maybe she won't, but obviously there's accountability there. And if the kids had died in the house because mom didn't have the heat on her, that would be a discussion. But again, kids don't belong living in vans. And there was no reason for her to be living in a van.
She called a bunch of times.
Because she did what she was supposed to do.
She called.
And there's an ugly rumor.
Hold on. She called that number during business hours. Now, what's the ugly rumor?
That she was turned away because she had too many kids.
I heard that too. I heard that from more than 3 people. And they're not going to tell you that, but that's what I heard.
And here's the bad part of that. The person who probably turned her away was probably an entry-level worker that was just there at the shelter when she came. She probably didn't even get a chance to speak to a social worker.
Well, probably because, if you have a certificate of occupancy, you can only have so many people in there. And then when she called the number and got a number and she went there, like, I'm sorry, ma'am, we've only got, by law, 2 spaces left,
right,
and you've got 4 kids. So you really can't blame the worker. It's just a distressing mess. Yep. And again, leaking pipes and flammables near the boiler and fire doors that don't work and rats and we're going to double the occupancy that you're not allowed to have.
And when you ask about it,
let me read this. Number 3, illegal use. The building currently has a legal use of warming center and is operating illegally as a shelter. I don't know. Once I get into this is how it really happens. Like we look to Washington, and this is the waste, the fraud, and the abuse of the most vulnerable. No matter how you.
It is abusive. Let me let you call every day.
Has anybody heard, because the rumor that I hear is that despite all the fanfare, that she's still unhoused. And so I can only assume maybe that's true, because if she were housed, there'd be some type of, exploitation by the city to say, hey, look, we put her in a house. So after all of this and that grandiose funeral that they held, I understand she's still not housed.
She was in a shelter, but apparently she's going to be unhoused, because I don't know if you caught the news last night, but the shelter has a zoning issue. So they're going to make people homeless because of a zoning issue. Meanwhile, Charlie has this list of violations over here longer than 7 Mile, and I bet you that shelter's still open.
Yeah, they just got the zoning issue. And then I'm standing there going, hey, they don't have a fire permit. Well, I believe we should take the director's word for it. It would be rude and unkind not to take his word. What the fuck?
And I bring that up too. The little shelters, the grassroots shelters that need a piece of the action to survive, probably like this one that has the zoning issue. Yeah, they never get any money.
I tell you what, like the woman on the floor with her boy, they were really lovely people. Mm-hmm. Good morning, the kid's smiling, he's cute. And to some credit here, there was a bowl of mush and some ham. So I'm glad about that.
I'm wondering why that
On the
window
floor.
didn't have a curtain on it.
In the vestibule, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Okay. So, Ken and I went around because we just wanted. This is Michigan. What the hell is the name of it? Sorry, Gail. Motor City Mission. What is it? Michigan Motor?
Oh, the Motor City Mittens.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
God damn it. Motor City Mitten Mission. Okay. And she doesn't get a piece of the pie. Raises her own money, and is out 7 days a week because there was no van available for this woman. Like, you call after business hours, nobody's answering it.
Right.
And then there's no outreach van that they're supposed to be, right?
I've been told.
Well, you sit on that board and they say they got them, but no one ever sees them.
Now, I will say this. There are some shelters that have outreach vans and they actually send them out. But again, I got to get my outreach van out there so I can reach out, grab these people and get them in here to register.
See, if you call at night, that's when the outreach van's supposed
That's
to.
right.
Okay. So Gail, she got an hour, not a contract, but they're paying her hourly, probably till today, to answer the phones after 6, right? When it was butt-ass cold.
Right.
Okay, so she did that and it's gone again. I mean, this is so easy to fix. 24 hours outreach van, thank you.
Especially since she's willing to go.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we just went out for a day when it was last week. It was super cold, but this is the people we met and the good woman and her brigade of helpful people.
It's going to snow soon, so
So instead of being in a tent, they want me out in the elements.
I'm from Florida. I came up here and got stuck.
You can't make up the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. The stories that we see, the people that we see, it's something new every day.
you got cable in there?
Nah, they gonna hook me up.
Cappuccino maker?
See, I like Gail cooking, man.
You like Gail's?
Yeah, Gail give us some variety, you know what I mean?
A lot of people will come, they recognize us and they'll come right up to our van.
Like, if I'm wife with.
Do you need menthol or regular?
Yeah, just menthol.
It's full service, so we have socks, underwear, blankets, snack pack, hygiene kits, boots, shoes, hand warmers, toe warmers.
You're too pretty to be out in the cold. I'm a preacher doctor in the community. Can I feel your hands? You get my make sure you're not cold. It's going to snow soon, so whatever promise here. Okay. I don't make no excuse. Don't make no excuse. I'm working Dr. Gilman. Whatever the calculating not. I'll see you again. I'm gonna call the Lord. Probably better chance of getting a hold of him than a shelter hotline.
You guys want to go and see if Doug is there? He was supposed to go to the shelter, but I don't know if he did.
The food's gonna be right in front of yours. Right here.
Is the cart covered in snow?
No, you're good.
What's going on, man? China.
Not a whole lot, Charlie. How you doing?
Which yours?
Doug.
Hey, Doug. So you say you were living in a house with your fiance?
Yeah, there was a house right there on the corner.
Abandoned?
Bando.
What happened to your fiance?
She went to Clearview, got out of here, so that's good. She wound up getting pregnant after 6 years of us being together. Our first baby, born on Christmas Day.
How does a homeless guy get evicted?
Because cities don't like homeless people. My health and safety. So instead of being in a tent, they want me out in the elements.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about shelter for you. So why don't you stay in the shelter?
Because I'm just so used to this. I've been thinking about going, actually, after all this time, just because of how cold it's about to be. It's supposed to be, below 0 a couple times this week? And I've been out here in that weather before, but that was with my partner, and we could, cuddle together. And
You got a phone?
no,
So how are you going to call the homeless hotline?
I thought you said the homeless hotline guy was a bullshit mother.
And print that one. How you doing?
All right. How you doing, man? Okay.
It's going to snow real heavy tonight.
Oh, I love the snow.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm from Florida. I came up here and got stuck.
You don't use the shelters?
No.
How come?
You can't put one foot in the right direction in the shelter.
Nuts? They're nuts in there?
Yeah. Yeah, a brick and crowbar.
You hear about the woman with the babies and she was living in the van?
That was horrible.
Yeah.
What do you think of these guys?
Beautiful sight to see. That's what she needed. Chucks to stop by, hand her some of this, hand her some of that, to help her along the way.
Well, we spend a lot of money for that, but I don't see a lot of trucks out here. The only one I ever see is this one. Somebody's taking the money and not doing the work.
Well, you're gonna have that too. That's a given. That's a given. That's a middleman.
A lot of middlemanning going on.
There's a whole lot of it going on.
You know, because you've seen it.
How do you think I got here? And you all drive safely.
You can see all these at the Michigan Enjoyer. So what were you asking me, Tara?
Just to be clear, it looked like he was getting evicted from a tarp.
Yeah, Doug was. Yeah, the police came and the health department put a notice up there like you got 7 days to get out of here, and they went and took it and went back. They went and mowed it down. He's gone. So I mean, you do get some city services, and let's be honest though. I mean, you can't be living in a culvert, near somebody's neighborhood. I'm sorry. I'm not having a guy out there living in. I'm going to call police too. But you got to be able to do something with this guy.
Well, I mean, do you remember Tinseltown back in, 2015, 16, when all those people were the Meyer Marketplace had the little fire pit, the porta potty, and they were living right there? You drive down Jefferson and you could smell waste, and something was coming or some sort of tour was coming, but they hurried up and ushered them to that motel across the street, and then they gave them Section 8 and moved them along. But it's like, people should not have to embarrass the city or embarrass the COC to get the services they need. There was a woman just last month in January that showed up to the COC meeting and refused to be put in the breakout room because her name was Paula Sands. Outlier Media wrote about her. She's like, look, I keep coming to y'all and y'all keep putting me in these break rooms. I need some help. And yeah, she was met with kind of like, what can we do to stop these people from coming? Because that's the ultimate goal. When we're held accountable and these people show up like, look, I've been calling this number, we don't want to hear it. And after that, now the board can't speak at public comment because me and Alan and some of the other people on the board started talking like, yeah. And I'm like, these people should be coming in here.
They're going to hate you.
Yeah, they already hate me.
When's the next board meeting? I got to go to it.
Monday, and it's in person. Why do you think?
In person.
Why you think it's
I
in person?
Go. You know I'm going.
You know
I'm up in there. I'm going to walk in like this.
And you know it's in person.
Oh, LeDuff's here. Oh,
you know it's in person to stop worldwide media from coming to hear the bullshit about what happened with Tatiana Williams.
Okay.
No recording, no foreign people coming. Hopefully it doesn't snow, because if you can't make it, you can't make it. And the fucked up part about it is, besides Alan, there are 3 other people with mobility issues that have to try to get to this meeting.
Okay, so Alan's the pedophile, right?
Indeed.
Well, as soon as we hear from our sponsors, I'll tell you all about Alan.
And that was a shitty mess, too.
Okay, we'll get right to that. Let's roll.
This message of uplift is brought to you by business and personal wealth advisor Luke Nowacki, who reminds you that what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but never enter the kingdom of God? But while you're waiting, Nowacki wants you to remember that overreaction is not a sound financial strategy. So call Luke Nowacki at 248-663-4748 for sound financial advice.
Well, you know, when it rains, the power goes out. And when the power goes out, the internet goes out. When the internet goes out, I call my friend Matt and Bernie at XG Service Group. Look at Bernie here on his hands and knees, giving it everything he's got. Look at that man crack. So busy, he forgot to wear a belt. There's Matt right there getting the board together. That's 734-245-4100 if you need Matt and Bernie to come take care of your voice over internet, your security cameras, off-campus access control, Wi-Fi, and cameras for homes and business. They'll design it for you. You got restaurants, they do drive-through systems, railroad cameras for public safety, total wireless camera systems for your home and business. Yeah, that's right. Call XG Services at 734-245-4100. Just to let you know real quick, Bernie and Matt came in today and yesterday and Monday, and we got fiber optic.
That's fantastic.
Boom. These guys are the best, man.
They are. They're really good to work with.
They are. They're
easy.
Awesome people, and they work hard, and they get it done. Much respect. Thank you, boys, for doing that. And Luke Nowacki, look at how gold is moving around the world. Look how it's moving around. Mm-hmm. I told you about gold. You don't quite understand what's going on with gold, but it affects you, Tara. Mm-hmm. And if you've got some savings and you're looking to retire in a proper way, call Luke Nowacki. I'm glad I took the advice from Luke. What is in Fort Knox? Is it? And then let me remind you, Archangel Senior Management is asking you if you're an entrepreneur looking for a safe and socially responsible real estate investment. Then you can invest in senior living, real nice, real small. 4 old ladies in a neighborhood, like my neighborhood. Everybody's getting worried. They lived there their whole life, and now the house is too big, and there's no senior housing there. What do? You can simply buy a house together.
Oh.
Have a management system. Have somebody that's able to get your groceries, to cook for you, to get your medications, to have the place clean, to have caregivers. All really, it's really interesting, and it's the future of senior living because we learned how bad it is during COVID. Yeah. The care's genuine, the owners are local, and Archangel has Overwatch if interested in investing in the real estate that the older ladies live in, etc. Well, I'll tell you what, you let Joe LeBlanc tell you about it. If interested, contact Joe at 989-614-0416. And finally, Fat Tuesday's coming. Lent is Wednesday. Fat Tuesday's coming. That means it's Coney Punchki time. There it is. Okay, so this is the Coney dog, the famous American Coney Island dog in a punchki from Hamtramck. This is a legitimate Polish punchki. So you got the sweet. You've got the savory. You've got the proprietary dog with the Vidalia onions, the mustard, the chili, and the glazed punchki. It's going to be Tuesday. Store opens at 9 a.m., first come, first serve, and it's a madhouse. American Coney Island, downtown Detroit, at the corner of Lafayette and Michigan Avenue.
Here's how good they are. I was really debating eating one of those that's been sitting by you that you've been coughing on while you're sick. No, I don't want them now. I'm going to get a fresh one later. But I seriously gave thought. I'm like, he hasn't been coughing that much. They're really good. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Really not bad, bro. That onion. That onion is unbelievable.
Oh my God.
I love it. All right. Tuesday. This Tuesday. Fat Tuesday. All right. I'm going to tell you about an interesting character I met in this whole blob, this whole continuum of care, homeless. Okay? This is my column at the Michigan Enjoyer. It'll be posted today. But I want to read it to you because, you know, you get the dramatic reading, Tara and Karen. Okay. Now, I've never had lunch with a pedophile. Not that I know of. But when 2 children freeze to death in the back of a van for no good reason, I'd even pay for the molester's meal if it meant getting to the bottom of things. And so there I sat in an unremarkable diner on Detroit's east side as Alan Rosetto rolled up in a wheelchair. He had come dressed for the occasion. Dark ball cap, a double-pointed devil's goatee, and a T-shirt that read, "Your feelings," with a stick figure copulating on top of the letter Y.
You have to be kidding.
I tell you, straight out of Central Casting. Rosetto is the chairman of a committee within the sprawling bureaucratic blob that dispenses hundreds of millions of federal dollars to Detroit for housing and homelessness. Among other things, Rosetto's committee is supposed to oversee the emergency hotline that the mother of four had called multiple times, only to be turned away. The rusting van became the family's mobile home, until the van became the children's death scene. After news of the children broke, I outed Rosetto in a column. Now, inexplicably, he wanted to break bread. "You gonna eat?" I asked him. "My budget's a little low right now," Rosetto said in a pinched, nasally tone. "I got about $6 for the next week." I noticed he was already perusing the menu. "I'll get you some lunch," I said. He ordered the eggs. I did the same. So why would a guy who did 3 years in the state penitentiary for raping his 13-year-old stepdaughter,
12 at the time,
be placed in charge of a committee that monitors vulnerable children? Rosetto must be some kind of genius or something, I figured. I figured wrong. A high school dropout, Rosetto described his working life as a little of this, a little of that. "I did some unsavory things," he said. "I was a drug dealer and a gambler." High school dropout? Drug dealer? Gambler? Well,
unsavory things.
Maybe the guy's a mathematical savant. I don't know. "What's 6 times 9, I asked. He could not say. Now, there's no shame in not knowing basic multiplication. No shame at all. Unless, of course, you're handling other people's money. "With all due respect," I said, "you're not an accountant or a business exec. You got no high school degree." It seemed to me they put him in charge to be the dupe who wouldn't be able to figure and compute what they were doing under his nose. Rosetto said he doesn't handle money. He said he's an idea man. An idea man who knows things about the inner workings of Detroit's homeless industrial complex. "I heard about a grand jury," he said. "The feds are looking at these dollars." Did you hear that?
I did.
Ooh.
And when I brought it up, crickets.
The eggs arrived, 3 of them each. Management had not passed the eggflation on to customers, the waitress informed me. It was an even deal, because the eggs were cold. Rosetto put ketchup near his eggs, like children do. Rosetto came to be chairman by simple endurance. He attended general board meetings of the Detroit Continuum of Care, that blob of federal, state, local, and nonprofit bureaucracies that distributes all these homeless dollars. Once Rosetto got noticed, he nominated himself for election to the board and won. And no one asked about his criminal history.
Before.
You.
Nobody asked.
Yeah, nobody asked. Until he was elevated to chairman of the oversight committee. And by that time, everybody knew he was a convicted pedo.
Yeah, when he got to be the chairperson of CAM, everybody knew it.
And they made him chairman. Now, Rosetto survives by dining from the fruit bowl of government handouts, food stamps, monthly Social Security disability checks, and housing vouchers intended for the chronically homeless that are distributed by the blob Rosetto is supposed to oversee. He says he rents a tidy 2-bedroom duplex on the east side of Detroit with those vouchers. And it is indeed a nice place if it's the same house listed on his sex offender registry. A perfect place, in fact, for a mother and 4 children. Those vouchers are where the majority of the money's going, Rosetto said. Follow that money trail. As for the emergency hotline, it's woefully underfunded, closed after business hours on weekends and on federal holidays. The long wait lines and lack of follow-up is due to Mayor Mike Duggan's new prioritization program, Rosetto claimed. The city is the puppet master, really, he told me. It's so bureaucratic, it's a prescription for death. I mean, whatever happened to need shelter, get shelter, not shelter 3 days from now?
Shit, they're not even getting it 3 days from now.
Now, after his 3rd cup of coffee, the wise little man in the pornographic T-shirt licked his fingertips and asked a favor of me. I just need you to treat me fairly in these stories because I'm really trying to do something good here, he said. If you help me, I'll help you. I thought for a moment and then said, yeah, I'll get back to you. And with that, lunch was over. You got a hell of an organization over there.
And again, when I point that out, I am the fucking villain. And I'm so tired of it because It sounds stupid to you. I'm hearing the feedback in the room. It sounds stupid to the people in here, especially when they heard that their money is going towards this book. The stipends that he is being paid with come from you by way of HUD to the COC.
I got a little email on those stipends, and it was the city talking to the blob agency saying, look, I can't legally pay these stipends. Tell me I can get around it. Did you see those emails?
I did not.
Well, yeah, I can get those to you.
Yeah, because I have some that you should probably see too.
Oh, yes.
But
yes, please.
again, I accidentally found out he was a sex offender. But the weird part is he had been telling us the whole time he had been coming to the meetings. He mentioned one time being where he lived, he was being bullied and assaulted. And when he described it, it sounded like the place that I knew of where they house sex offenders. And I thought, why would they put a man in a wheelchair there? Then, when we were in the strategic plan meeting, public meeting for the entire city, he pipes up and says, housing should be for all. Section 8 vouchers and public housing should be for all. Because I have friends that can't get public housing. No bullshit. I'm watching my computer, and you know how you're giving fee. I'm like, yeah, because they're probably pedophiles. Again, never occurred to me to look. Then we have the meeting at the COC, and he just used to get on my nerves. He was always whining, and I'm like, he is the whiniest white man I've ever seen. I did not like him. But he was giving his speech, and I thought, bitch, you're being really unfair because you really don't like him because he whines. At least look at his shit and give him a chance. So I go to the hand website. I'm in another meeting, and I'm on the phone. For whatever reason, I can't get his application to register on the hand website. So I go to Google and I say, Alan Rosetto, COC, which should immediately take me to his COC application. Instead, good old Google corrected it. Alan, did you mean Alan Rosetto, CSC, and put up his mug shots.
Criminal sexual conduct.
Put up all of the information about
God.
it. And he is giving this speech while I'm seeing it. And I want to stop him and ask him, is he on the sex offender registry? But it's a lot of people in this meeting. And I actually knew somebody whose picture.
Why didn't you tell anybody? Let's just cut it short. Why didn't you tell somebody?
Because I thought maybe if it's a mistake, I don't want to holler you're on the sex offender
That's good. That's generous. It's appropriate.
So?
No, we're done. We're done. We're done with him because we did everything we're doing with this guy. And he's just a small symptom. He's the dupe they're putting in the front. It's the...
Because
he's
they
not
fought, the
handling
executive
money.
committee fought to get him on
All
there.
these motherfuckers at these big agencies drive around the Lincoln Navigators. That's my real problem. The fuckers that own these shelters and that are getting double occupancy, siphoning the money, and you can't even get hydraulic fluid away from the fucking boiler. Okay? So he is what he is. He's an interesting thing. But I would think the head of that intake, IT, oversight of money, we'd want to get somebody sophisticated.
Take a look at the 990s and see who the
I have.
executive directors are.
I have.
Look at the places where they used to live and where they live now.
I know, and they're gonna know about me. Mm-hmm. They're gonna know about. You know, I'm into a lot of. Hey, Mark, get what's bullshit in the news. Get that one pulled up because I'm into a lot of stuff, Tara. As right, Karen, we're into a lot of stuff. Got to keep track of. So what I'm gonna do with that shelter is, you know, the chairman, the president of that nonprofit, we're going to have coffee. I'm going to make sure these upgrades get done. And then I'm going to be back when it gets cold, and it better be done. You know what I mean? But we got a lot of stuff to do. Go ahead, hit me with it, Mark. Do you find it? No? It's all right. Yeah.
The No BS Newshour presents What's Bullshit in the News?
Okay, you know, I still haven't heard from the police on those 300 missing homicide victims. And I know a report's coming out, Karen told me about it, that shootings, here's the report. Shootings in Detroit are down 82%.
What?
82% means like almost there are no shootings.
There were just 3 people shot the other day.
Yep.
Oh,
That's what I
details.
said. And
Is
those
that
were
true?
the ones that made the news.
Right.
And if you're not looking, okay, so the chief texted me and he said he's going to hand me down this week. And then we're going to go through that data. And then we're going to get a hold of Chris Fraser, whose son was shot dead at a family barbecue, and at least, please, somebody call him from homicide. Right? That's bullshit. And the mayor wants something. Okay, here's the next thing he wants.
The No BS News Hour presents What's Bullshit in the News?
Okay, so Detroit's frozen solid. Water main break, southwest side. They're blaming it on climate change, but it's really infrastructure, because this place is run by boobs and bureaucrats and bandits. Here's what's going to happen. Michigan gets more FEMA money than California. Our infrastructure's rotting. It's a whole game. You call your Democratic pals in Washington. They send you relief money, and off we go. But nothing gets fixed. We pay some of the highest water rate. That water main break on the southwest side, that water main belongs to Detroit. Okay? They're trying to say it belongs to all of us. Gliwa, right? But it's Detroit's. Detroit's supposed to pay for that, but Gliwa was Great Lakes Water Authority was leasing it. And so we're going to pay for half? When I rent a car and it breaks, I lease a car, it breaks down, I don't pay for it. The owner pays for it, right?
Right.
Hertz pays for it. Why are we paying for it? I don't know if we have that picture, Mark, of the gigantic check. Okay, so everybody gets to be in a hotel for 6 weeks and get Uber and your meals, and Detroit's going to pay half.
And look at these smiles.
Okay, so how much? Look at that. That check, that's a Biden out the door check last month. Remember they throwing money, all the climate change money? That's a slush fund for $346.8 million. That's how Detroit's going to pay for it. Shit. Right? Now, the rest of us in the region, our water and sewer rates are about ready to go up 13%. And we already have the priciest water bills in the country. And we're surrounded by the Great Lakes. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's thievery. So I don't want to hear we accomplished all this crap, because we didn't accomplish anything. And finally, can Dana Nessel please just shut the fuck up? What was this one? Let me see. Yeah, Nessel says Trump's plan for a second term is to shock, awe, and exhaust with the quick pace of his actions and orders. We must stay in the fight and do all that we can to protect democracy.
Meanwhile, people are reporting serious complaints to the Attorney General, and this is what she's focused on.
And the Attorney General is surrounded by allegations of campaign finance fraud with her wife, doing nothing about it, obstruction of justice with her pal, the treasurer of the Democratic Party, made that case disappear, but it's not disappearing. Selective prosecution. You went after a conservative ballot initiative, but you didn't go after your wife's. And conflicts of interest. What a ding-dong. What a ding-dong. Dana, okay, I know you don't like to work. And I know you don't like to work. So we got a couple of dipshits in the state legislature are going to send a letter to the Supreme Court asking them to overturn gay marriage. Yeah, like the Supreme, what are you going to FedEx it to the Supreme Court?
Right.
This is dumb.
Dum-da-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum. Dana.
Get to work. Okay,
Charlie,
yeah.
the bigger question for all of this before we go is not just why do people do this, but why do we allow it to just continue?
Yes.
I mean, at some point, everybody, this has just been normalized. So we've got all these people doing all this crap, but we're allowing it. And that we have to ask ourselves why. Why? This is unacceptable.
In that piece you did, even the homeless guy from Florida knows that, right?
Yeah.
So he's no dummy. These people aren't dumb. We're not dumb.
But people don't care about homeless people.
Nope.
Homelessness is not sexy. And the only time people care is when something like this happens.
Yep.
Keep in mind, Tatiana Williams' kids were the second set. Remember, Kamaya Davis drowned in sewage because her mom was living in an A-band, and her mom was prosecuted and went into jail or prison homeless and came out just as homeless as she was before she went in because of, supposedly nobody had resources for her. Again,
And don't forget, like in Pontiac, when the mother and her children were wandering around. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget look. It was.
Oh, yeah.
God,
I
frozen
had
the sewer.
forgotten.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we forget, in 2009, in January, I did a story of a frozen homeless man, his feet sticking out in an elevator shaft.
Yep.
16 years later, 2025, I'm doing stories about babies freezing in a van. In 2009, I did stories about the police faking the homicide numbers. 16 years later, same month, they're doing the same thing. What's really changed?
Nothing.
Remember that when you
Nothing.
vote. Come on, Dana, get your ass down here and just get something done. Never mind. Don't worry. I'm working on the story. I found new stuff. Oh, God, this is going to be the funnest election season ever. Okay. Well, that's the program.
Feel
How
better,
about-
Charlie.
Yeah, I will. And don't forget, Tuesday, Punchki Dogs, American Coney Island. All right, we'll see you next week. Thank you, Tara Brown.
Thank you, Charlie.
Board member, Continuum of Care.
Stay on it.
Give him hell.
You too.